All right, welcome back to the North Star Takes podcast, your one-stop shop for Minnesota sports content and takes. Bailey Pulicki and Jacob Liberta back with you here. Please give us a follow on our Instagram and Twitter at North Star Takes podcast, and be sure to like our videos and hit subscribe as well on our YouTube channel. So now that we're in the lull point of the offseason here with the Minnesota Vikings, we're going to kind of get into a breakdown by each position for what we expect for this upcoming season for the Vikings. So we'll do one position a week and just kind of go into greater detail about what we're kind of expecting for that position.
I'm looking forward to this breakdown.
Absolutely.
This is gonna be fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this as well. So we're going to start off with none other than the quarterback position. Minnesota Vikings found a way to kind of spice up that position this year with drafting Kellen Mond, obviously, as a rookie. Mm-hmm. But this is Kirk Cousins' team. He's going to be the starter for all 17 games, most likely, barring injury, of course.
Is this Kirk's team?
Well, I guess we'll find out, but that's what makes it fun, and that's what's finally nice about having a legitimate drafted quarterback behind him, someone that's actually somewhat competent. So I guess we'll just kind of start off. What are you expecting from Kirk Cousins this season? Do you expect him to take a leap forward based on what he's done the last couple of years? I mean, stats wise, he's been fairly good for us, obviously, but you'd like to see us make some deeper runs in the playoffs and actually make the playoffs and maybe even win a division title and win a couple playoff games. So what are you expecting out of him?
Well, if I'm staying true to my word from last week, I'm saying this is an MVP season. So if he's winning the MVP, we're probably winning the division too. But
yeah, that's true.
I think I got to temper my expectations just a little bit. But I'd say he should perform similarly to his statistical output these 3 seasons he's been in Minnesota. And honestly, going back to his days in Washington too, everybody who's a Kirk fan always references all these stats from since 2015. He's like top 3 in the statistical category for quarterbacks. But
he's top 6 all time in passer rating or whatever the heck it is.
Yeah, it's like great. I mean, how many playoff wins does he have? He's
exactly.
won. We've been in the playoffs one time with Kirk in 3 seasons, and we're paying him how much money? He's taking up how much of the cap? So this just feels like a flop so far. So I hope he gives us something this year. And honestly, I don't think the circumstances could be any better for him. I get he has a revolving door at offensive coordinator, but to be honest, he's just got to make it happen at some point where he just puts the team on his back and he carries them at least a little bit. Like, obviously, he doesn't have to shoulder the load with the talent we have on this offense, on this team. But the thing is, I think he's got to take a step forward. And I think he actually will. But that all hinges on, obviously, the play around him, as it always does for him specifically. But I'd say he'll have a pretty solid season. I think he's always the right place, right guy, kind of. I don't know how he does it. It's right place, right time. He always gets the bag whenever his contract's coming up. So then I wouldn't think this year would be any different come next year when he's going to have a restructured contract, whether he's playing for us or somebody else. He's going to get the bag again, which is stupid in my opinion. But, I mean, it's inevitable in my opinion.
Yeah, it's the state of the quarterback position in the NFL, though. Yeah. Someone's always willing to pay.
Yep, exactly. Somebody's always getting paid. So that's just the nature of things. How do you feel about Kirk? Do you think he's got to have a better season than he's had so far in Minnesota? Or
I feel like he has to. I mean, if they win 9-10 games and get bounced in the wild card round of the playoffs, they don't win the division once again. Mm-hmm. If we're not making any improvements here, then I think he's gone. I mean, they're going to be able to trade him with 1 year left on his deal. Like you said, some other team would be willing to give him an extension and give him the bag. A team like maybe the Denver Broncos, if they don't end up trading for Aaron Rodgers and they want to move on from Drew Lock. Obviously, Teddy's not like a long-term starting option. So, and the Broncos have a good roster too. So Kirk Cousins would make a lot of sense there. We'd always talked about him maybe getting traded to San Francisco. Well, that's not going to happen at this point now. With Trey Lance being there. So, yeah, I think Kirk could have a really solid season. I truly think the Vikings have the potential to be one of the best teams in the NFL this year. It's just, can they put it all together? Can they avoid massive, important injuries, stuff like that? But, I mean, like we talked about last week, I mean, he really should be in the MVP conversation. I don't expect him to win it, in a league with Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson and guys like that. But
in the conversation, that's very fair.
Absolutely. So, I think, like you said, he's got a revolving door at offensive coordinator, but really the offense doesn't change that much. I mean, it's all that Gary Kubiak style offense, run the ball, play action, take your shots deep, and, like you said, we got the talent to do it. So, yeah, I think, there's really no excuses for Kirk this year, and, I think, as long as the circumstances around him are good, I think he's going to do just fine. But whether that equates to like winning big time playoff games, that remains to be seen.
Oh, he better be showing the door because otherwise, what are we doing here?
Exactly.
I don't want to just settle for mediocrity, win 9-10 games, kind of scratch in the playoffs, and get just obliterated in some wild card games. Like, that's not what we're here for.
Especially if Aaron Rodgers is gone.
Oh yeah, that's even more unacceptable. If we don't win the division and Rodgers is out of it, everybody should be fired, or at least it should be considered. At least, and we
Agreed.
Really consider structural changes to what we're doing because that's just unacceptable.
For sure.
Because with the state of the other franchises in this division, I mean, this should be ours if Rodgers is gone.
Without a doubt, yeah. So, stat wise, are you kind of expecting the same out of him as usual? Roughly 4,000 yards, maybe 30 touchdowns, 10 interceptions or so.
I'll up the ante a little bit. I'll say Clint is a little bit more new age than Gary was.
Okay.
I think he'll be more willing to throw the ball, and I think Kirk's going to push for like 4,500 yards.
Okay.
And I'm going to say he's going to go. Dare I say? I'll temper it. I was going to say 40, but I'm going to go 35 touchdowns.
Wow.
And then I'm going to say he stays under 10 picks this year, unlike last year when he had that cold start.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's going to have a really solid statistical season, but jury's still out if that means wins for us or not.
Right.
So we'll see. How about you? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of think he'll stick around that 4,000 yard mark. I think this last season he only had like 3,600 yards or something like that. But maybe it was the season before when we made the playoffs. I don't remember. But I think roughly 4,000 yards. I'd say 30 touchdowns is a pretty safe floor. They love to run the ball with Dalvin. He gets his fair share of touchdowns. So, and then interceptions wise, maybe a little more than 10. Maybe Kubiak's going to want to take a few more chances this year, and if it ends up in a couple more picks, then that's okay. As long as they're not, losing games for us at the end of the game or something. So
exactly.
Yeah, I think that's a fair expectation for Kirk, though.
Mm-hmm. And also adding on to that real quick, I just thought of this. I almost forgot. It's a 17-game slate this year.
Yes,
so
you're right.
You're going to have the extra game to
that's a good point.
Pad the stats. So, that changes things a little bit too. But how much remains to be seen.
Right. So then we'll move on to the other quarterback that's in the quarterback room. We got Jake Browning and Nate Stanley.
My favorite quarterback in the team. We're just about to talk about.
Jake Browning is the backup as of right now, but that remains to be seen if it'll stay that way.
Mm-hmm.
If Kellen Mond can show something in the preseason, obviously he'll overtake him. But I think the goal quite clearly this year is to not have Kellen Mond play. Just let him soak in the offense, learn what it takes to be a quarterback at the NFL level. Learn from Kirk. Kirk's a good. He's a good classroom quarterback. He loves to study the game.
Mm-hmm.
He's a smart football guy. So I think Kellen Mond can really learn a lot from him. So do you think Kellen Mond's going to be able to show us a little something in the preseason here? Kind of prove that he's the backup, show some promise for the future, stuff like that?
Yeah. I'm not sure if he'll be the backup quarterback this season even. I think he might be a third stringer. He might keep 3 guys on. Maybe Jake Browning's the backup for the whole year. But I think that Mond will show some in the preseason just because I think he's got the raw talent. He can play it. He could play for 4 years in the SEC and have tremendous success. So I don't see why he couldn't honestly do pretty well against NFL backups in the preseason. So I don't see why not. At least he'll show some flashes. Whether that looks just as good in practice and they feel comfortable with making him potentially the backup to Kirk.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But I think as far as in the preseason, I think we'll get the fun throws and great plays, maybe making plays on his feet like we don't usually see with these Vikings quarterbacks. So, I think he'll give us a little something. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I agree. I think this is going to make the preseason a lot more intriguing. And obviously we didn't have preseason last year, which ended up kind of being a bummer. People would always hate on the preseason, and
it's like just don't watch it.
Yeah, exactly. But it's kind of entertaining if you got young guys that you want to see play that aren't going to play right away. And Kellen Mond's a prime example of that.
Yeah, it's fun when Rick Spielman packs a bus full of draft picks, and then you can roll up to a preseason game with
him. Yeah. So
fun.
We always had the Kyle Sloter show back in the day. Well, maybe now we'll have the Kellen Mond show, and I think it'll be fun. Something has probably gone wrong if Kellen Mond is playing this year, if it's not in the final week of the season.
Yeah, let's hope it doesn't come to that.
Yeah. So I think really the pressure is off from him obviously this year, and just learn. Just do the best you can and keep getting better each week in practice, and just show that you can be capable of at least being a backup, and then hopefully one day becoming the starter. So
exactly, look good behind the scenes, and honestly, that's what the Vikings really liked about him is that he got better every year. He was at Texas A&M, so you just hope he continues that natural progression into becoming an NFL quarterback now, and potentially if he looks good enough, and nobody will even really know it besides the coaching staff, to be like, yeah, we're comfortable rolling with this guy in 2022, and we can definitely explore trading Kirk somewhere and getting honestly probably another nice draft pick in return,
right?
Just further bolster this team on a cheap quarterback contract.
Yeah, give Bond even more weapons to work with. So
that's tasty. That's tasty.
Get another wide receiver in here or something. I don't know.
Exactly. I don't want to jump the gun a little bit too much, but yeah, let's just hope we don't see him this year. But he makes good strides behind the scenes.
For sure. Yeah, I'm happy that the Vikings were just able to upgrade the backup quarterback position a little bit this year.
I don't want to see Sean Mannion anymore.
No, you don't have that veteran presence, but I think that's a little bit overrated when you're just trying to win football games.
Yeah,
so
especially when Kirk, knock on wood,
he
stays like on the field almost all the time. Like he never gets hurt. That's one of the things you can credit him is durability.
For sure. So yeah, that'll do it for this edition of the North Star Takes podcast. Be on the lookout in the upcoming weeks here as we break down each position group for the Minnesota Vikings. Next week we'll be talking about running backs. So stay tuned for that. Be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll see you next week.